Jazz, I think we are good to go. You good?
I'm good.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for joining everybody. Today we are going to be talking about rental real estate investing. Jazz, so I thought you'd be the perfect person to join the call, being that you're a real estate agent and you also have rental properties. Let's get straight into it. So uh, just a brief introduction of yourself. Who are you? Kind of what do you do? Who is Just Ask Jazz?
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to share my experience. I'm Jasmine, Just Ask Jazz. I am a real estate agent and also I'm a real estate investor. I do have a full-time job outside of real estate. I'm basically out here trying to tackle all of my passions. I don't plan on staying in one career field. I plan on pursuing other career fields, and I just pretty much am led by what drives me, how I can motivate myself to do better. Of course, create generational wealth, but really dig deep into like what are my passions and how I can pursue them.
Good
Oh
deal.
yeah, that's pretty much me summed up, I guess.
Cool. Cool. So what got you started in real estate investing? What sparked the passion for it?
So, okay, so what's
Let's say real estate in general. What got
okay?
you started in real estate?
So I had moved to Baltimore to take a job opportunity, and I, was up there. I was living with my grandparents, and I was like, "Hey, I want to buy a house up here." So I Googled Googled YouTube, and said, "Hey, how do I buy a house?" Bigger Pockets popped up, and they started talking about real estate investing. Your traditional buying the duplex, multifamily unit. And I was like, I could go this route maybe. But then I clicked on something else and it was talking about real estate sales. So to make a long story short, I said, hey, I can sell houses. I think that would be fun. I decided that I was going to get my real estate license in Maryland, but God had other plans and brought me back to Virginia. So I said, I still want to sell houses. So I got my Virginia real estate license in November of 2017 while I was in the process of buying my first property with my agent, who was also my mentor, Chat with Pat. So I really appreciate him. He was my agent at the time, and he is still a mentor to me to this day. So that's pretty much how I got into real estate. That's the gist of it.
Okay, so you became an agent first and then got your property after you became an agent?
So I got my property first. Then I became my agent. So I closed, I got my real estate license, or I took the test and passed the first time, the beginning of November, and then I closed on my house about 3 weeks after that.
Okay.
So I guess, yeah, I did
Okay.
become an agent first and then buy the rental property.
So
Okay.
how was the agent process? What did you have to do to take the test, and how long do you have to study and all that stuff?
Oh, I didn't really study for too long because I took the class, which is about 6 to 8 weeks.
Mhm.
I took the class and then I took the test right after.
Okay.
The stuff was fresh in my mind, so I just took the test and I passed. On the first time, you take the test, yeah,
Okay.
then you get your license, and then you go. You find a brokerage.
Cool. Good deal. So you didn't use yourself as your agent when you bought this property. You used another
No,
agent.
no, I didn't. I used another agent. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right, good deal. So you want to let's jump into that property. So how'd you find the property? How'd you start looking? Did you
Okay.
talk to the agent first? All that stuff.
All right. So eventually, the reason that I got into real estate just in general is because I didn't want to rent. I rented and then I realized I was just throwing money down the drain. So instead of renting, I said I can buy something and actually live in it. And that was the goal, because of course sometimes we think, oh, when we're working with a real estate agent or we're looking for our first time, not necessarily our first time home, but our forever home. And we don't think besides that. It's like we move into a house and then, oh, if I want another house, I'm going to sell that house and then buy a new one, when there's a totally different route that you can go through. And when you think of real estate investing and people acquiring rental properties, I like to think of myself as more so like a cautious risk taker. So I overanalyze and I overthink a lot. So I like taking things slow, but I do like to take risk. And I know that sounds a little strange. So instead of, so it was just it was better for me in my financial situation. It was better for me mentally to buy something that I could live in and then eventually rent out. And that's the route that I continue and that I want to continue going personally. So, I mean, that's just works for me. I know that a lot of us may hear, get a FHA loan, buy a multifamily unit, house hack, repeat. And that is, I'm not knocking the FHA loan at all, not knocking the process of that as well. I mean, either way, you just have to figure out what works for you. And using a conventional loan worked for me best. So there are owner-occupied conventional loans that you can get. And I'm not a qualified mortgage lender or a professional. So you definitely want to talk to someone who is a qualified mortgage professional. So what I did actually was I used a conventional owner-occupied loan. So I put down 3%. FHA, you put down 3.5%. So you're probably wondering why I went the conventional route. Well, after I graduated from high school, I went to college. I got my bachelor's degree, I got a master's, and then I went back and got another master's degree. So, you can kind of think of how much student loan debt I probably racked up because that was just the right thing to do. You were to graduate from high school and go to college. That's all you knew in between that. Well, that's it. That's all I knew.
Me too.
So that's exactly what I did. Racked up some student loan debt and was like, I'll pay it off later. Here is later. And I'm like, oh, I got to pay it off for real this time.
Right.
So with FHA, they looked at, and I can't think off the top of my head, which is why I would suggest everybody to talk to a mortgage lender. But FHA looks at your student loans a little bit more in detail than the conventional route. So there are conventional loans out there that you can get with owner occupied, putting down either 3% for first time home buyer or 5% if this is a second owner occupied house. Now you're probably thinking, I thought we had to put down 10%, 15%, 20%. Yes, if you're buying the property just as an investment property and you do not plan on living in that house, you will have to go that other route. But of course, if you were thinking of something whereas, I'll live in it for a year or whatever the lender requirements are, I would suggest doing owner occupied. Once again, this is just my experience. This is what was safe for me. This was a safe risk because once again, I looked at my financial situation. I was not putting down 10, 15, 20%. I like to keep my money in my pocket. This was the easiest route for me was to get that 3% conventional loan. So that's pretty much how I jumped in. I lived in the property for, whatever the amount of time the lender required me to. And then where I bought the property actually is near a university, very, very close to a university. So as I looked at the rents in the area, which I'll talk about a little bit later, but as I looked at the rents in the area, it just made so much more sense to rent it out than to actually pay the mortgage and increase my cash flow, which is absolutely great. So yeah, I think that touched everything.
All right. So I actually didn't know that you could do a conventional 3% down loan. I thought you had to go FHA.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I did VHDA, 0% down. And where I feel like I messed up with that is with the VHDA 0% down, you get that PMI, but with VHDA, the PMI doesn't automatically fall off once you get to 20%.
Oh,
it stays on there and you have to refinance out of it. And I didn't know that. I thought once you got to that 80%, then it just falls off, but it doesn't.
So with the conventional, it will automatically fall off.
Gotcha.
And then there was another thing you said. So if you do go the FHA route, you can only have one FHA loan at a time. Mm-hmm. So just keep that in mind. Nothing's wrong with going the FHA route. If you can do FHA multifamily, you don't have an arm and a leg and student loan debt like me, I would say go ahead and do it. Buy a multifamily unit, live in one side, house hack and rent out the other units. But if you do choose to go to the conventional route, you can have more than one conventional loan at a time. Now for FHA, you only can have one, and then you'll have to refinance out of that loan once if you plan on saying, hey, I want to use another FHA loan. But then also with FHA, they have limits to whereas you have to be a certain amount of miles away from buying that first FHA property. Once again, I'm not a qualified mortgage professional, so you want to make sure you talk to somebody that's a qualified mortgage professional.
Disclaimers.
Yeah. So and then, sorry, I'm trying to do like the real estate investor hat and then the real estate agent hat. So as a real estate agent, I always tell my clients to actually, can you hear Penelope crying? No? Okay. As a real estate agent, I always tell my clients to talk to your mortgage lender and ask questions. Ask them, if I went a conventional route, how much, percentage do I have to put down? How much closing costs can the seller cover? If I wanted to go FHA, ask the same amount of questions. The down payment, of course, is 3.5%, but then how much can the seller pay in closing costs? And then also you want to ask about the PMI, because clearly with the PMI doesn't automatically fall off. You have to refinance out of it, but with the conventional, it does. And then you also want to just compare, of course, the rates, and then check the amortization schedule for both of those loans and see what may work better for you in the end. A lot of people do choose the FHA route when it comes to buying, the duplex, the triplex, or quad, because it just makes sense and you're only putting down 3.5%. But if you're like, hey, I want to buy this, house, I think it'll be a really good investment in the future, then it doesn't hurt to take a look at what a conventional loan could offer you, especially when you now hopefully know that you can get a 3% conventional loan. You just have to shop around, talk to the lenders, ask the right questions, because some of them will just say, yeah, put down 20%. And you didn't know that you could use some of that money to fix up the property or to add whatever.
So I think that's a really big thing, because that's what stops a lot of people from getting their first property is they say, I don't have the money. But they don't know that you can put 5, 3.5, 0% down for a property. And then you can negotiate the closing costs. You can have the seller pay the closing costs. So there's so much you can do to get into that property where money doesn't become much of an issue. All right. So I think that's good. So how'd you find this property?
So I found my property through the multiple listing service, which is also called the MLS. It's normally, the MLS is normally accessible when you have an agent and they either set you up on a drip or automatic email where you're automatically getting properties, or you can go through other listing services. But I would suggest you to either go through the MLS. You can also look for owner finance loans, or you can reach out to, maybe if you see a house and you're like, hey, I want to buy the house, you can always just randomly ask. But the best bet is to connect with a real estate agent who's familiar with this type of investing, so that they can kind of, you can let them know your criteria, what you're looking for, what your goals are, what your vision is for this particular house. Once again, for my route, it was to live in it and then eventually rent it out, which I did do. So mine was the MLS.
Okay. Yeah. And I think on the agent side, one thing that I find helpful is me and my agent, he sets me up with that push email. So every morning, if there's a new property, and mine is set up for Norfolk and Newport News. Every morning, if there's a new property, 8 a.m., I get an email that says, hey, these properties are now on the market. So I can go there every morning and say, oh, is this a property I'm looking at, I'm interested in investing in? So I think a good tip for folks is to just go talk to a real estate agent and say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. This is where I'm looking for. This is my price range. Can you just send me properties?
Yes.
It's that easy.
I don't know how we're going to do the chat thing, but I saw it pop up about Zillow. I'm a real estate agent. Zillow, Redfin, all of them, sometimes their system lags behind. So a house could have already sold by the time, you see that house. So it may say on the system that it's still for sale. Just with my experience, it may say that, clients will send me houses saying, hey, let's check out this house. It says for sale on that particular site, but when I actually look at the MLS, it has already sold. It may have been sold the last 2 or 3 days.
Yep. That's actually, that's what happened to me the first time I contacted an agent. I was looking at Redfin, saw a property I was interested in, contacted the seller. The seller was like, oh yeah, the property's already gone, but would you like to look at some other stuff? I was like, I don't know, but I agreed to look at some other stuff with him. And that's how I ended up getting my first property. But yeah, so like Redfin, Realtor.com, Trulia, Zillow, all that stuff, they're good tools. But as you said, they can lag behind what's actually happening in the market.
Yes.
And time is important when you're talking about investments because you want to get it at a good price and you want to be first.
Exactly. That is key. Getting at a good price.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I think we talked about how you got into real estate. Um, I think we talked about how you found the property, how you financed the property as well. So you went out, you found the property. Who did you like need to talk to get this property under lock? So you were working with your agent. How did you find a lender? How'd you go about finding the finance for it?
So normally agents, if you're just like, hey, I want to buy a house or I want to start the process, you normally automatically go straight to an agent. And then the agent normally works with a team of individuals. So the team of individuals could be the lenders, of course, because you always want to be pre-approved first. So they have lenders, they have contractors that they know, they have home inspectors that they know, they work with title companies, insurance agencies, home warranty companies. So they pretty much have their own little network that they kind of just automatically use those vendors because maybe they've built relationships with them and they treated their past clients really, really well. So I use the same vendors pretty much for my clients because I have working relationships with everyone. Um, they answer my emails in a timely manner. They treat my clients well. So I like to kind of stick with the same vendors that I use, and that's exactly what I did when I was working with my agent. He had a couple of lenders for me to choose from. I got my pre-approvals done with I think 2 or 3 lenders because it's also important to shop around. They were sending me stuff, my pre-approvals. They were, sharing the rates with me. They were sharing, oh, we have, 3% or this. And so what happened was the lender actually had a conversation and she said, hey, Jasmine, FHA is looking at your student loans like, you're crazy and you want to buy a house. So I think it would be better for you to go the conventional route. And I said, well, perfect. Because somebody would have just said, okay, you qualify for $2 with FHA. And then you're sitting there like, I can't buy a house.
Yeah,
And then that's where it stops.
yeah,
But no, you have to find a way.
yeah.
So when she introduced the conventional route, because I didn't know I could buy a house 3%, I didn't even know. I mean, granted, I was going through my real estate classes, but they didn't talk about the lender part. But I thought I had to do. I thought I was 15% conventional. So when she said, "Yeah, we have a first-time home buyer, 3% conventional loan that you can use," I said, "Oh well, sign me up," because I mean, it's conventional. It's not as stringent as FHA.
Mhm.
FHA nitpicks over a lot of stuff. So it was just like, 3% conventional was perfect for me. And then also the house that I bought need some fixing up. So I had to like paint, carpet. I had a large window that the contractor had to uh, I don't know the right contracting terms, but bring up the siding so that they cut the window in half because it was rotted and water was getting through. So FHA wouldn't have approved that before I bought the house.
Right.
So the conventional route was definitely better.
Okay. All right. So I think that's another great tip is you go to the lender and get a pre-approval to figure out how much house you can even afford. So then when you're going out with your agent to look at properties, if this house is $200,000 and I'm only pre-approved for $150,000, either I'm going to have to get it for $150,000 or I got to go look for a different house. So I think that pre-approval tip is great. And one of the reasons I love real estate is because you work with professionals. What you do as the buyer is you look at the properties, you find the property, you contact your agent finds the lender, they talk to the seller, they get the appraiser, they get the home inspection, your lender holds your hand through signing the paperwork and all that stuff. So when you're the buyer, it's like the professionals are really holding your hand through the process. So all you have to do most of the time is say yes or no. All you
Mhm.
have to do is make the decisions along the way.
Yes, yes, and stay within your budget.
Right, right, absolutely. Okay, so went and found the property on the MLS, got a pre-approval from the lender. So you found the property you wanted. I'm assuming your agent went to talk to the seller. So what's that process like once you found the property you're interested in buying? What are the steps after that? Like the appraisal, the home inspection, that stuff.
All right. So you find the house that you want that's within your budget. I like to make sure, and I'm gonna just back up for a quick second when it goes to the pre-approval. On your pre-approval, the lender will say your mortgage is this amount, your down payment is this amount, and your monthly mortgage will be this amount. So a key thing is, and I might be jumping a little ahead, but I feel like this is kind of maybe a good part to hit on, but if you're looking at, buying this starter home and you're like, in the future, I do want to rent it out, you want to look at your monthly mortgage and compare it to the rents that are in that neighborhood. So use that pre-approval as a tool, because if that pre-approval says your mortgage is 900, but the rents in the area are 1,500, no, actually, if the rents in the area are 650 in that area, but your mortgage is 900, 9 times out of 10, you're only going to be able to rent your house for around 650, 700, because that's just what the market is calling it. But if it's your pre-approval is for a 900 monthly mortgage and the rents are 1,500, you're in the clear. If you can see, your 1,500 minus the 900, that's your cash flow. So use your pre-approval as a tool, and that's very key in finding the property, because that'll help you stay within that budget that you want to be in. So fast forward a little bit. The process. So after you get pre-approved, you start, home shopping, you start house hunting with your agent. You'll shop and compare the houses. And after that, you put in an offer. So you'll say, hey, I want to put in an offer for this amount. Your agent will say, okay, let's get some closing costs covered. You'll discuss what amount of closing costs can be covered, and you'll submit the offer to the seller. To the seller's agent, and that's all done through your real estate agent. So your agent is literally drafting the paperwork for you, talking with the listing agent. You don't have to go to the house. You don't have to talk to the seller. You're talking to your agent. The seller is talking to their agent, and the agents are talking to one another. And that's pretty much how the deal goes. If you have specific questions about the property, you'll ask your agent, and your agent will take it over to the seller's agent, and the seller's agent will talk to the seller. So you don't have to worry about trying to meet with the seller. You don't have to worry about going to house trying to catch them or whatever. Your agent will pretty much do everything for you. So after your agent submits the offer, you pretty much wait for the seller to say, yes, I will approve. I agree to the contract terms. They may say, no, I don't agree, and walk away. Or they may counter offer and say, hey, maybe instead of, maybe instead of this sales price, can you do a different sales price and I'll increase your closing costs? Or they'll say, yes, we'll do the sales price, but we can't give you 3% closing costs. I only can do 1% because maybe they're trying to buy another house, or maybe they have some, crazy financial situation that they want to make sure they're okay to even sell their house and walk away with a little bit of something. So you have to really know what the seller's motivation is behind why they're selling their house, which your agent can, talk to the listing agent or the seller's agent and kind of figure out what's their motivation. So after you submit the offer, and let's just say, yes, they accept your offer. So you have your offer. Now it's a ratified contract. So now you're under contract, which means that you're literally bound to this contract. You're going to give your earnest money deposit, which basically means that you're good to go. Like, okay, this is my commitment. This is my, let's say it's $500. This is my $500 commitment saying that I'm going to be, going through this process. Now, you're probably wondering, well, why do I have give $500 up front? Well, the $500 will be deducted from any of your closing costs at closing. So your closing costs may include your down payment and then any additional lender fees, title company fees, maybe the agencies that you're working for, they may have a buyer representation fee or admin fee. So that is deducted at closing, and that can definitely be covered in a home buying workshop. But just for this process, I want to kind of keep it a little short. So after you give them your EMD and you're under contract, you schedule the home inspection, and you'll get a qualified home inspector to come out there and inspect the house. They'll inspect the structure of the house. They'll do the plumbing. They'll check the plumbing. If you have a crawl space, they'll go underneath the crawl space. They'll check the electrical. They'll, check all of the outlets in the house. They check the windows, make sure the windows are good. They check to see if there's any rot. And you also, if you have an FHA loan, you'll get a termite inspection or moisture inspection to see if there's any damage. So hopefully you come back, the home inspection comes back good, your termite letters come back clear, and maybe in the home inspection it says, let's think of a home inspection item. What's a home inspection item off the top of my head?
Termites. Well, that's a.
No, we're not talking about termites. Your termite letter is clear. For the home
roof,
inspection,
hole in the roof, something. I don't know.
Trying to give some difficult ones. Okay, no, this is the home inspection item. The HVAC system is old. So you say, oh, the HVAC system is old. What can we do about this? And then of course the buyer's probably, you as a buyer, like, oh, we can shave off some sales price. Let's shave off the sale price. And the agent's like, whoa, let's wait a minute. Let's negotiate here. So then you can say, okay, what can we do since we know that the HVAC is a little old? So the agent can say, hey, we can request that, it be replaced. We can request that, it'll be serviced and cleaned, and you provide documentation that it has been serviced and cleaned and that it's good to go, so that when you get that home warranty, you can call your home warranty company if anything happens. So you'll go through the negotiations of that. Fast forward a little bit, everything's good with the home inspection. You move forward, you agree to the home inspection items. If you don't care and you want to move forward without the seller repairing anything, you'll just keep going through the process. Whew. So once after the home inspection is done and the seller and the buyer have agreed to any terms of the repairs, you'll say, okay, I'm still okay to move forward. Your agent will order will have the lender order the appraisal. So the lender orders the appraisal, and that is an expense to the buyer that has to be paid, and that's normally, I think, between $250 to $400 depending on your lender. So of course, when you're talking with lenders, you want to ask them, how much are your appraisal fees? The appraiser will come out, and basically the appraiser will come out and they'll look at the house, they'll look at the condition of the home, and then they'll check like properties and say, okay, yes, this house, it appraises for the sales price. If the house does not appraise for that sales price, then there you go back to the negotiation table. Or let's say the house appraises for $150 and your offer is for $152. So then you can either come out of pocket that $2,000, or you can negotiate back to the seller and say, hey, I only want to pay $150 because that's what it appraised for. And then the seller will say, maybe we can do that, but I'm not paying X amount of your closing costs, or I'm not getting that $2,000 HVAC unit repaired. And then you'll have to figure out if that's what if that's the route you want to go. So let's say the appraisal comes back, it appraises for what you're buying it for. Pretty much it's smooth sailing from there. Then you go to closing. You sign a million paperwork. You sign your life away. You get, record the deed.
Right.
You get the keys.
Okay. All right. So just to sum it up, so you find the home that you want. You make the offer, which just means that you're going to your agent and saying, hey, agent, tell the seller that I'll buy the property for this much money. The seller comes back and says, cool, I love your offer. I'll let you buy it for this much money. Or they'll say, no, I'll only sell it for this much. And you'll say, let's meet in the middle. All right. But then you agree on the offer. After that, you put your earnest money deposit down, which just means I'm serious about buying this house. After the earnest money deposit, you go get an inspection. So you've came out of pocket for the earnest money deposit, which goes towards your closing costs. So you're not really losing that. And then you're coming out of pocket for your inspection as well. The inspection is just a professional going through and saying, this looks bad, this looks bad, this looks good, you should probably get this replaced, et cetera, et cetera. After the inspection, you can further negotiate with the seller and say, I want the toilet fixed, I want the roof fixed, I want the HVAC fixed. And the seller is going to say, I'm not fixing anything, you buy the house or you walk away. All right, so y'all figure out what the seller is going to fix, what they're not going to fix, if you're going to adjust the price or anything. After that, you go get the appraisal, which just means I'm going to send a professional out there to see what the house is actually worth compared to the other houses in the neighborhood. After the appraisal goes, then you go to closing, sign your life away, get the keys.
Yes.
Cool. So I think a good tip there might be the EMD is usually refundable. So if you go do the home inspection and there's like fire damage in a room that you didn't see before and you want to walk away from the deal, you can walk away from the deal and get your money back, right?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. Yes.
All right. So we bought the property. We've got the keys. Now, how do I find somebody to rent to?
Okay. So I use Zillow Rentals because it's free to me. It's free for your first listing. So if you have multiple properties, of course, they'll charge you, but I just use Zillow because, of course, for some reason, everybody's go-to is to Zillow. So why not take advantage of Zillow Rentals? So I use Zillow Rentals, and then I use Cozy Co software to do all my background checks, my application, my credit checks, and everything else to determine if tenants are eligible for my property.
Okay.
You can use Facebook. Facebook is the Facebook Marketplace. You can use Facebook. You can share just within your circle, depending on what type of property you bought or where your property is located. Like, for instance, my full-time job, I have a lot of interns. So I'm always like, hey, if you have friends that need places to live, apply, I have a rental property. If they need, whatever, fill out the application, go through the process, share it within your network. Post it on Facebook, post it on social media, hiding the fact that you have a rental property. You don't have to hide the fact that you have a rental property. Just, you don't know who's going to apply. So you might as well use the free marketing sources.
Okay, cool. So you mentioned background check. How does that work? What are you looking for? Are you looking at credit scores and
so so I look at the background check, of course. Just make sure you review all landlord-tenant laws. Make sure you know the fair housing laws. I'm not going to get into all of that. So make sure you just review the laws, fair housing and equal opportunity laws, everything before you move forward. So everything I do is based off the landlord-tenant laws and fair housing. That's that. So with the credit check, of course, it depends on the landlord. So of course, my rental property is close to college, is in a college town or college area, if you will. So I'm not expecting their credit to be 800, maybe not even 700. Maybe they might not have credit. So I'm just looking for a stable income. And sometimes I may decide if I want their parents to sign something or not. Normally I don't, but I do have a conversation with them, and they also list their parents as emergency contacts. So if anything happens, I'm able to get in touch with them, which I haven't had an issue with. But I invite their parents to come to the lease signing so I can talk with their parents at the same time. So everybody is hearing the same thing come out of my mouth at one time. And their parents can ask me as million questions as they want, but I also make it very clear that the parent is not living in the house. So I'm talking with your child, but I want you to understand everything that I'm telling your child, and feel free to ask questions that your child may not ask. So yes, but everything, all my background checks and everything, FHEO, which is Fair Housing Equal Opportunity, and then the Landlord Tenant Acts. Please know those things before you pursue rental properties.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great point. There's always a way to mitigate your risk. So if you're renting to a college student that doesn't have credit or doesn't have a good credit or doesn't have a lot of credit history, you can have their parents co-sign on the lease. So if the student doesn't pay, then their parents are also on the hook for that.
Yeah. Or you can have them as a guarantor. Yeah.
Like
yeah. So I think with the guarantor, and you probably know this a little bit, but I think with the guarantor, it still gives them some kind of financial responsibility, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they can have a key to the house.
Right.
So if they're co-signing on the lease, they might think they get a key. Right. But as if they're just the guarantor, then it's kind of like, okay, yes, you're just, for backup, they're not paying their financial responsibilities. I can come after you.
Yep. Okay. So what about the lease? Do you use your own lease or do you use a template from somewhere?
So I use a template. So actually, Bigger Pockets has been a huge resource for me throughout this entire real estate sales and real estate investing journey. They actually created landlord documents for each state. So a lawyer has reviewed them. Now, of course, if you want to mitigate your risk, like Kim said, have your own lawyer, a landlord lawyer, take a look at it. You can have certain cities, they have landlord like advisors or someone that you can just talk to if you have questions. You can have them take a look at it. Get to know like the landlords or the property management companies that are in your area. Go to local meetups, connect with people who are doing something similar to that you're doing, and share resources. Ask them questions. Ask them to take a look at something. But of course, if you always want to make sure your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted, talk to a lawyer.
Cool. Cool. All right. So got the property.
Mm-hmm.
We've now found renters.
Mm-hmm.
How does let's talk about management a little bit. So you find the renters,
Mm-hmm.
they move in. Do you manage your properties yourself?
So from start to finish, I manage the entire thing. And then some property management companies will find your tenants. They will do the lease and everything. So if you're interested in going this route and you want to be strictly hands off, they'll find the tenants for you. They'll market the property. So you don't have to worry about putting it on Zillow. You don't have to worry about marketing on Facebook Marketplace. You can literally have someone else do everything from start to finish. I prefer to do everything from start to finish because one of my goals in the future is to have a property management company. So I'd rather learn the ropes myself and then, have a company that will oversee my rental properties and then everybody else who wants to invest with Just Ask Jazz rental properties as well. So that's eventually, what my goal is. But if this is something that, maybe you have some extra time on your hands and you're like, hey, I'll try to, manage this rental property for a year, go for it. Just know the landlord tenant laws, know the FHEO regulations and everything. Make sure you do your research. That's all I can say.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started managing my duplex because I was living next door, so it wasn't really tough, and we had a really good tenant that we inherited. But after we moved out of the property, I got a property management company. So they charge me I want to say 7% of the rents every month.
Okay.
They handle all the maintenance, they handle the payments, so they just send me the money on a monthly basis. Some of them will charge you to, like you said, to source the tenant and put the tenant in the property. So I want to say mine charged me half of the first month's rent to find a tenant, get the lease put together and all that stuff. So you can manage the property yourself, or you can outsource it to a property management company. But if you outsource it, it's going to cost you a little bit of change for the convenience.
Exactly. And then of course, if you run the numbers correctly and it doesn't affect your cash flow too much, then I would say go for it. I know from just the real estate investing webinars that I've watched or the groups that I've been in, I think
My
they
man.
to whereas what is it? They want 150 to
My
$200.
man.
They want something between 150 to $200 a door. Just know that that's your cash flow. So that's after you've paid the mortgage. So if the rental property management company is charging you, 7%, make sure you incorporate that 7% out of it. Also, what are your capital expenses? Are you putting money away just in case that water heater does go out? I mean, my suggestion is to get a home warranty. I have a home warranty on my rental property. So if anything happens, all I have to do is pay that $100 deductible and they're out there taking care of whatever needs to be done. I don't want them to say, oh, Jasmine, you have to pay, I don't know how much HVAC is, $2,000. No, that's why I have my home warranty. So I have to expect that in my cash flow, I'm paying, I'm putting aside money for my capital expenses. I mean, just in case something crazy happens. So I put aside money for my home warranty each month. In my capital expenses, I don't even touch the money that comes from my rental property. Last year I did because I just wanted to treat myself to a nice vacation. But since, I can't vacation anywhere this year, I don't want to touch the money. So, I mean, I would just say if this is something that you're interested in doing and you want a couple of extra dollars, just don't touch the money. Just let it sit. And then maybe at the end of the year, you can say, I'm going to pay myself 20% from what I've earned. And of course, you'll talk with your CPA or your tax accountant advisor, and then they can kind of give you everything else. But you can pay yourself at the end of the year. You can pay yourself monthly. I just don't touch the money because this is just extra money that's coming in on the side. And then if I want to do something big for myself, then I'll take it from there. But of course, I know in my head and I know on paper that I have money set aside for any capital expenses. I have money set aside for, like I said, my home warranty. Recently, I think the taxes went up in the city of Norfolk or something, something went up. So they sent me a bill and said, hey, now your mortgage is $20 more. Yep. I didn't freak out because I knew that my cash flow would cover it. So all I had to do was just adjust the amount that I'm putting aside for my capital expenses. Yep. And then there was something else with the property management. Oh yes, with the property management company. Of course, if you're living in, for instance, Texas and you have a rental property in Virginia, you may want to get a property management company if your rental properties in Virginia. But if you're 20 minutes away, like I live in Hampton, my property's in Norfolk, I have no problem riding to Norfolk to just drive through the neighborhood here and there. I honestly, if I continue to buy in the 757, which I will because I don't really have intentions on leaving anytime soon. And I plan on acquiring all my rental properties by living in them first for, the set amount of time and then moving, because I just rather buy below market, fix up, paint, fix the floorings, do whatever, and buy low, and then eventually, rent those out. My process or my experience is different from, of course, many others. One, because I'm actually living in the properties. And then two, I have a full-time job. I have other side hustles. This is a slow and steady process for me. I know that this is creating generational wealth for me. So it's not anything to whereas I'm stressing to, have rental properties to pay for some expense. This is more so long-term, something that I want to build over time. So I will probably, I don't want to ever put down 20%.
Right. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks. Okay. So I think something we've mentioned a couple times is cash flow. So I just want to break down cash flow for folks. So really one of the basic reasons you get a rental property is to get cash flow, and that means get profit coming to you for renting somebody. So let's say you go and you get a property and your mortgage is $1,000. But then you go and you look to see what other houses similar to yours or other properties similar to yours are renting in the area. And you find 4 properties and they're renting for $1,600, $1,500, $1,800, and $1,700. But your house is nicer than all of those. So you go out and you get some tenants and you rent the property to them for $1,800. Your mortgage is $1,000. So the difference between that is your cash flow, or $800. But what happens is there's that $800, but then if you have a property management company, you might be paying them $100. So instead of $800 in cash flow, you're only getting $700 at the end of the day. You might have maintenance. It's not always going to be a bright and sunny month, right? You might have a plumbing bill, or you might have to replace some flooring, or something might happen. So you want to put money aside in cash reserves just in case you have maintenance, or you got to replace the roof, or vacancy. So your house always isn't going to be rented. So if you're making $700 a month cash flow, you want to make sure that you have enough money set to the side. So if your tenant moves out and it takes you a month or two to find another tenant, that you have the money to pay your mortgage in the meantime. So cash flow is really the difference between what you're getting in rents and then all your expenses. So mortgage, maintenance, capital improvements, which is like big stuff like roofs, HVAC, heating, full plumbing repairs, stuff like that. Vacancy cost. So I thought it was important that we kind of broke down cash flow, because that's what you're really looking for. Yeah. You're looking for a property that's going to make you money on a monthly basis. So if your mortgage is $1,000 and your rent is $1,200, you're probably not going to make much cash flow, because you're going to have some maintenance, you're going to have some vacancy. If you get a property management company, that's going to eat away at your cash flow. So you just want to make sure you have enough cushion between your rents and your cash flow to make sure that you're actually making money every month.
So in a couple of things I want to hit on. So when it comes to cash flow, using, first living in the property will definitely help that, because like I said, I'm looking for properties that need work. I mean, I don't need it to be fully gutted or fully rehabbed, but it needs work. So the seller isn't selling at the market. So therefore, I do have that larger gap when it comes to cash flow, and it's not just $200 per door. Because, I mean, if something was to happen, how much, the water heater goes out and you don't have a home warranty, $200 over, okay, you're gonna have to do some math. $200 over 12 months is what?
GP, how am I supposed to know that? You said how much? 200 over 12
I'm using the
is 2,400.
2,400. So 2,400. So that means you're getting $2,400 in cash flow. If your water heater goes out and your water heater costs $2,000, that means you've only made $400 for the year. So you really want to think about that as you're buying. So think about it right now. If you're a homeowner, if you were to move tomorrow or to move within the next month, or if you're planning on moving, would you be able to rent your house out for a decent amount to cover your cash flow? You have to think about that. And that's when I work with a lot of home buyers and things like that. I have honest conversations with them because I'm like, what if you decide to, I want to move to, I don't know why Texas keeps popping in my head, but I want to move to Texas in a year. What if you don't want to sell your house? Or what if you can't sell your house? Will you be able to rent it?
Right.
Those are the questions that you have to ask. Something else when you're talking about maintenance. So another thing that did not deter me from managing my own property is because when it comes to maintenance, I can literally just ask my father. So that was the thing. I knew that if something broke, I could call him and he could go over there and get it done because my dad does stuff like this. So that was something, that was peace of mind. I told you all, I'm a very cautious risk taker. So I had to analyze everything. If maintenance was to happen, if I needed something maintenance wise, who can I call? I can just call my dad. He can get it done. Or my dad knows contractors that can get it done. So that was kind of something where I was just like, that wasn't a major thing for me because a lot of people, even throughout the home buying process, because you're coming from an apartment where you can call the maintenance man, you can literally just call the rental office and say, hey, send maintenance up. When you buy a house, it's not like that. You literally have to say, Google, plumbers in the area, handymen in the area, if you don't have the connections already. So because I had certain connections, it was kind of like peace of mind, like, okay, I'm going to go out here. If I know, something needs to be painted, I can call my dad. I actually, went to the rental house when I was in the process of it being rented this year. I bought some like these floors. I easily just popped in a couple of floors myself. And I actually want to learn how to do stuff like that. So that's another reason why I decided that, hey, this is the better route for me because I can buy the house, I can live in it, I can fix it up, do whatever. And then eventually when I'm ready to move on, I can rent it out.
Yeah. Yeah. How much time do you think you spend managing your property?
I would say about 5 hours a month.
A month.
Right. So
Right.
I'll do I'll do my ride bys. I'll text, the residents, the tenants that live there just to say, hey, just checking in, you everything good. I ride past the property to make sure the property is still standing there. I check in with the neighbors that are over there just to say, hey, because sometimes they'll let me know what's going on. I mean, I haven't had any real issues, but they'll say, hey, we noticed this, or they just want to have conversation with me. I make sure that the neighbors have my phone number just in case anything is to happen. And the only time I would say I would spend the most time at the property is if I want to go out when the landscaper is there, or if a contractor is out there, because I want to know exactly what he or she is doing, why they're doing it. I ask a lot of questions. So if somebody says, oh, we have to repair the rot trim, what is rot trim? Why do we have to repair the trim? What needs to be protected? Oh, it's to make sure, the bugs don't get in, the squirrels don't get in your house, rodents. Let's see, what else? Oh yes, scheduling and showing the rental property, that takes time, of course. Answering random phone calls from people. Hey, your house, I saw this on Zillow. Okay, like you got to go through that process. I have to rearrange my schedule so that I can make sure I'm showing the houses when they're available and when I'm available. Like I said, I have a full-time job, so I still have to go to work. I still have to, work with my other clients and my other side gigs that I have. So about 5 hours a month.
That is not bad at all.
Not bad.
I spend more than 5 hours a month watching Flip This House. So All right. So, okay. We talked about kind of managing the property. Have you had any major like challenges with managing the property or
Yes, I
problems?
had a huge, major challenge.
Yeah.
So when I first went to the house, I let one of my tenants pull on my heartstrings a little.
Mhm.
I'm very compassionate. I feel like I can help everyone. But in this business, you have to know that it is a business at the end of the day. Because if they're not paying the rent, I have to pay the mortgage.
Right.
Trying to pay the mortgage because
Right.
the goal is to build wealth slowly over time. So I let her pull on my heartstrings a little bit, and I'm gonna spare everyone the details. But in the end, I did learn how to navigate through the court system.
Yeah.
So it was a lesson that I needed to learn.
Yeah, yeah, I think and that's a big reason why I don't manage my own property, because I know when the tenants come to me and they're like, "Yeah, but I had a hard month and I can't pay," I'm gonna be like, "No, it's good. Give me the money next month." So I don't want to be the face of my own property because I know I'm more susceptible
Mm-hmm.
to let people slide versus being, just being stern to the lease is the lease,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and we'll work with you, but
Mm-hmm.
we gotta pay the rent, and we gotta do things professionally. So that's one of the major reasons why I don't manage my own property, because I know I can be a little lenient sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. So then also when it comes to that, you can also, if you're interested in rental real estate investing, when you're researching the fair housing laws, when you're researching the tenant acts, you can also research rental assistance in that particular city. You can also research different programs that your city or state has to offer for if your tenants fall behind. So there are resources out there if you're willing to work with your tenant, when it comes to setting aside that the extra cash flow. If you can, if you're able to say, okay, maybe they can pay you at the beginning of the month, or and then pay you 2 weeks after that, set them up on a payment plan. But once again, at the end of the day, it is a business. The mortgage has to be paid. If you have a mortgage on that property, it has to be paid, and you have to make that very clear, to your tenants. I let somebody pull on my heartstrings for far too long. And at the end, I definitely paid for it. Literally, I really did pay for it. But I actually learned the court system. I wish I would have, learned the court system a different way. But at the end of the day, real estate investing is a risk. If you're not ready to make a risk or take a risk, don't do it. And once again, like I said, I'm a cautious risk taker. So I analyzed everything. I guess forgot to analyze my heartstrings.
Yeah, understood. So okay, all right. So what's up with the property now? You still renting it out? Still seeing cash flow? Have you seen any appreciation on the property?
Well, as far as appreciation, I haven't done anything major. Like it has the original appliances that were in there that the seller left me. Once again, I have my home warranty, so if anything goes out, I don't have to spend an arm and a leg on appliances. I can just call my home warranty. Um, so I mean, according to Redfin, that sends me alerts, it says that the property has appreciated. I don't know what Redfin's talking about because I haven't had an appraiser go out there. So, I mean, Redfin's telling me, hey, it's increased, it increased. Okay, that's fine, but I have no intentions on selling it unless the college that my rental is located in knocks on my door and offers me cash to buy this house. That's the only way I'm selling the house.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I will be keeping this in my portfolio. So as far as appreciation, the only way to really find out is if the appraiser comes out, and then of course there's new constructions being built on that street. So I mean that definitely takes into account, but my house isn't a new construction, nor am I about to spend any extra money because the rental property is fine. Like it's livable, it's very nice. It's basically what you need. I don't need to do anything extra to it. I don't need to add any bathrooms to it. I don't need to add any extra rooms. It even has a nice backyard and a deck. Like how like it's amazing. So I mean, that's as far as that goes.
Okay.
It's still being rented. It's actually being rented from by some college students. So that's still running the course. I'm still checking in with them because, of course, with college right now, things are a little leery with how they're going to go to class, if they're choosing to go to class, if they plan on staying in the house. And if you're, depending on who your renters are, maybe their job has maybe been affected. I'm not sure, but as a landlord, me managing my own property, how willing am I to work with them? If for some reason something happens, am I willing to say, hey, you're still responsible for paying the rent, but I will put this back on the market until a new renter comes? I will be open to that. Because I feel like, you signed a year lease, yes. You're still responsible for your rent, but I understand these certain circumstances has prevented you from being able to maybe live for the entire year. I have no problem putting the house back on the market. And when I do secure tenants, you will be free from, we can cut your lease and I'm not going to hold you, I'm not going to penalize you because I didn't know COVID was coming. I didn't know this virus was coming. So I mean, I just think I'm fair. My heartstrings are a little stronger, but I'm definitely fair. So if you can work with me, I'll definitely work with you. Yeah. So it is being rented right now. They are still paying the rent. They are on a yearly lease. I only do yearly leases. I don't do month to month. What was the other question?
No, I think you answered. Okay. I think you answered the question. Okay. Okay. All right, so that's kind of what's happening with the property now. All right, so I think we're kind of wrapping up here. But so what do you think stops people from getting started in real estate?
Having the money. So I think the thing that challenges me because I'm in this field is so much. Oh, but you can get started in real estate for as little as $0. But it's so much that goes into it. And if you are having a full-time job, I love my full-time job. I will tell anybody, I love my full-time job. You've even come to my full-time job and done workshops for my kids. Like, I love my full-time job. So people with full-time jobs will say, oh, how can I get started for $0 money down? But they don't take, $0 down, but they don't take into account how much time it is. So for wholesaling, you literally have to go out here and look for those properties. You have to drive neighborhoods. You have to go down to the court systems and get the probates and get all of the information, from the court systems on whether the house is occupied or not. And I think the court system does charge you for that. But, I think money is the biggest thing that stops us. Debt to income stops us as well, because clearly my student loan debt stopped me from getting an FHA loan. I could have gotten an FHA loan, but the amount that I qualified for did not make sense for what I wanted to do. So I went the conventional route. So understanding that, yes, you'll have to put down a down payment, or you can get down payment assistance, or you can do VHDA, no money down. A couple of other lenders do have programs where you don't have to put down payments. Something else that stops people, period, from buying houses is understanding, the costs that are associated with. What is your down payment? What is your closing cost? What is my home inspection fee? If there's an admin fee for your real estate company, what is that? Why do I have to pay my appraiser fee up front? Why can't I pay it at closing? So it's just other little things in between there. You don't want to be house poor right. At the end of the day. So make sure you have your budget. Make sure you understand debt to income. Credits. Now, of course, a qualified mortgage professional will help you understand the credit a little bit more, but there are plenty of programs that will help you if your credit isn't that top notch that everybody wants to see. There's a lot of programs that can assist with that as well. So I feel like, we're so used to either one, the traditional route of I have to buy a house, my forever home first. Which could stop you, because if your forever home costs $350,000, but you can only afford $175,000, and you're like, oh, I can't buy a house, but you're not thinking that I can buy something as a starter, and then eventually I can rent it out later when I'm ready to buy the next house. Or, hey, maybe I can just keep doing this as long as you're living in that house, and then you could buy another one. So those are a couple of things that, would stop us, because nobody's talking about this. We're not we're having the conversation, but, people aren't having these normal conversations to whereas, hey, did you know, there's no money down, or there's 3% conventional, or, oh, you can house hack. You can buy that FHA, house. You can use the FHA loan to buy a multifamily property. You don't need 20%, to put down. There is a 3% conventional loan.
Yeah. So how do people find somebody like you, an investor savvy real estate agent?
Ooh, that's a good question. Just check your network. Ask questions. I found my agent. did I find my agent? I think on social media. And I just knew I wanted to work with someone that looked like me, that knew what they were doing. And I felt like I could reach out to him and ask any question that I wanted. And I didn't care if the question sounded stupid.
Yeah.
I didn't care because I didn't know. And a lot of people are afraid to ask questions because we'll feel judged. We're afraid to ask questions because some people will look at us like, oh, you should know this. When the truth is, we don't know. And sometimes you don't ask questions that you don't know. I mean, of course, you can't ask a question that you don't know because you don't know to ask that question. So to have somebody just kind of be able to just share their experience with you, to kind of just give you the ins and outs, like there is a 3% conventional loan that you should shop around for lenders. I'm not afraid to tell you, like, hey, shop around for lenders. They offer different products. Ask them about their products. So yeah, other than that, you can, research. I don't really suggest you Google real savvy investor friendly agents because I don't think much will pop up but articles. But you want to, hold on, wait, I wrote this down. Oh, okay. You want to find out if, if there's a patient individual. Once again, are they answering your questions? Are they, are they having real conversations with you? Do they know what the rents look like in that area? What type, do they invest? I mean, they don't have to invest in real estate, but have they worked with investors? What type of investing experience do they have, if any? Do they own a home? Those are kind of questions that I ask, that I was asking in the beginning. And then do they understand your vision? Can you just sit down and have a conversation with them and say, hey, my vision is to do X, Y, and Z. And this is the route that I want to go. Or are they pushing that forever home on you? Because once again, it's about you, not them.
Right. No, I think those are some of the key questions. Is, do you invest in real estate yourself, or do you work with investors? Like, what's your experience with investors? And then on that comfort side, so I think we share the same agent. So I'll give him a shout out, a chat with Pat. So when I started working with Pat, he made me feel so comfortable and gave me so much confidence that his team was a good team to work with, that he works with a bunch of investors. So you got to find an agent that has some experience doing the thing that you want to do, and that also makes you feel comfortable to ask those types of questions.
Absolutely. I still will hit Pat with a question. I'm telling you, I will text him in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I have no problem asking Pat any kind of question. I'm like, Pat, this question maybe sound crazy, but can you help me?
Right.
I don't understand this. Or what does this mean? And it may be even a contractor term. I mean, I try to, research stuff because people, of course, me being a female, some people will just say whatever. And then I'll be like, what does that mean? And then I'll just be like, Pat, he said this. What does this mean? And he will respond quickly. So definitely, if, ask the agent, do they invest? What's their experience with investors? Those are great questions to ask. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So where do people find you? Where can they chat with you and get some more information, follow you, all that stuff?
So so my Instagram is _just_ask_jazz_. My Facebook, I think, is Jasmine Benford. You can find me there. I do have a Facebook business page, Just Ask Jazz Real Estate. I think, yeah, my phone number is up there as well. I mean, I'm pretty accessible. You can hit me up on Instagram. My page is public, so anybody can kind of go in, see whatever, contact me. I do respond. I do have a YouTube channel, Just Ask Jazz. And this is similar to what I do, is talk about things that nobody's really talking about, or answering questions that people may be unsure about asking, or don't want to seem crazy for asking questions. So that's where you can find me.
Nice. All right. Well, I appreciate it, Jax. Can we all give Jasmine a virtual round of applause?
Thank
Appreciate
you
all the great information. So there's a couple of questions here. I think we'll kind of breeze through some of them. So is Zillow good? I think we talked about that. Yes, but there can be a lag with the information on Zillow. It's 3% down, the only upfront cost you're required at the time of the contract. So I think we talked about this a little bit, but home inspection, Usually $400 to $500, something like that. Appraisal, 250 to 4 or 500. Earnest money deposit, which is kind of refundable, as in it goes towards your closing cost. Of course, you got the down payment when you close, any closing costs, but you can negotiate the seller paying for that. I think another good thing we didn't really mention is when you're the buyer, you don't pay for the agent, right? The seller pays for the agent.
Seller pays for the agent. And then another thing to also say in this, as far as when it comes to negotiating, when you're buying owner occupied loans and the seller will see that you're living in the property, they will be a little bit more negotiable. So if you're just buying a property outright saying this is an investment property, they're going to say, oh, well, if it's an investment property, why do I need to pay for their repairs? Or why do I need to give closing costs? But if you're actually living in that home, they're probably going to be a little bit more lenient when it comes to negotiations.
Yeah. How many months should you get pre-approved before going to buy the house? Can that number change based on any point? I'm not sure on this. I want to say pre-approvals usually have a term. So if you go to your lender, they'll say this pre-approval is good for
30 to 60 days.
Okay, yeah.
Depending on the lender, but also, so if you know you want to purchase in November, you want to start your pre-approval process late August, early September. If anything, maybe even the beginning of August, because they may come back and say, you're approved for 150, but you really want to be approved at 200 to purchase that FHA quad or something. Well, what can you do between September and November to get you to that 200 point, if anything?
Yeah.
So if you want, you could just, like, I literally got pre-approved in January. I just told my lender, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I want to know how much I can afford. Yeah. So when she pre-approved me and I found out how much I got pre-approved for, I said, well, hey, maybe I can kind of keep my eye, on the market. I mean, granted, I am my own agent right now because I am in the process of purchasing something. So I'm representing myself, but at least I just had the opportunity to know how much money I could play around with. And then when I was ready to jump, I'll be ready to jump, rather than, reaching out to agents and saying, oh, I want to see this house, oh, I want to see this house, but not knowing how much I can afford. And I did a video on this as well.
Awesome. Can you put something in place that if tenants damage the property, they're responsible? Also, is it good to make them responsible for plumbing, air conditioning, etc.? I think this is, you can put anything you want to in the lease, really, as long as it's appropriate via the laws. But yeah, you can. I've seen people say you're responsible for the first $200 in damage, and everything after that I'll handle. And I think it also depends on the market and all that stuff. So if all the landlords in the area take care of all the damage and you're the only one that says you're responsible for the damage, you might have more trouble getting a tenant in that property because it's less marketable than the other properties.
But there's certain damage that you can definitely bill them for, or even when it comes to giving back that security deposit, you can deduct things from there. Yeah. So you can, but read leases and also get with the lawyer to kind of say, hey, can I do this? And don't be afraid to ask a question, because you will see, like, even when it comes to buying a house, some people put down $1 as the earnest money deposit, and it's up to the seller to say, okay, I mean, if you put down $1, that's fine. I mean, you could put down $1 as your earnest money deposit. I wouldn't recommend it because some sellers may not take you seriously, but some people do it. I've seen it. Some people do it.
Yeah. All right. And I think the last question is, any experience with purchasing homes with other people's money? Maybe you could talk about what you are looking to do. So I don't have experience purchasing homes with other people's money. To get my first property, though, I took a loan from my 401k. So it wasn't necessarily my cash, it was my 401k cash. So I took a loan, did a rehab on the property, and then put the money back after I did the rehab. So it was being more creative with the financing, but I've never purchased a home using other people's money.
Neither have I. I've pretty much been leveraging, of course, credit. But Bigger Pockets is a good resource. If you want to check that out, you can look into owner financing deals. You can type that. So Bigger Pockets is like a Facebook for real estate investors. So you can go on biggerpockets.com. You can literally type in owner financing. Things will come up. You can type in leveraging other people's money. You can type in private money lending. I think that's what it's called. Yep. So yeah, you can go to Bigger Pockets and type those in, and Bigger Pockets is pretty much a legit and a great resource. You can literally connect with people as well. You can send them messages. You can read every form. They have articles. They have calculators. So they have rental property analyzing calculators. They have calculators if you want to flip properties. It's a great resource.
Yeah, look, Bigger Pockets is legit the only reason why I do real estate. I started listening to them, and they like taught me everything I needed to know to just start buying properties. And then, like you said, it's a community. It's like Facebook, so you can search like wherever you live. For me, I'd search Norfolk, and there's a forum with a bunch of people on there. I found my property manager through Bigger Pockets. I found my RIA through Bigger Pockets. I found a couple of other people that I talked to about real estate through Bigger Pockets. So Bigger Pockets is legit.
Yes.
All right. Well, Jasmine, I appreciate you so much again. I think this was an excellent conversation. I hope people got a lot of value of it. You got any last words before we end?
My last words, and I wrote everything down, so don't judge me. I guess my last words will be to, here it is. Build slow. So it's not a rush. It's just pretty much know what your vision is and where you're trying to go. Like I said, with me, this is the best route for me. This may not be the best route for you. You may have more money in the bank. You may have more money to leverage. But I want to build slowly generational wealth. I would love to just have a lot of rental properties that I can just build over time. I'm not in a rush because I want to know the system. I want to learn the system. The property that I'm purchasing right now is in Hampton, and I will be living in that property, but it's going to take time for me to get to know the Hampton resources that are available for when I'm ready to rent it out. It's going to take time for me to get to know what Hampton, laws are, the city laws, the city ordinances, the city of Hampton court system. I know the one in Norfolk because I have my rental property through Norfolk, and I've had the years to learn this, but now it's like, okay, I'm moving into something new. I'm going to be living there. How can I prepare myself for when I am ready to rent this next house out? I like to build slow because I like to buy low. Hey, that rhymed. Build slow, buy low. Hey, I like that. Oh, I really like that. So yeah, so I want to be strategic in how I'm acquiring my rental properties. And if you're willing to sacrifice, maybe you're a single person like me, and I don't have children. So if I wanted to, and I mean, Keem, I know you did this, bought a duplex, but I may not care about having a duplex or a triplex because I don't have to worry about having maybe a larger yard space for the kids to play, or maybe a porch or a deck or something, or maybe you don't entertain guests as much, so it's fine. You can also house hack and get a roommate. I didn't want a roommate, so that's just not what's gonna work. But you can house hack and get a roommate. If you're a college student, and maybe you have some credit, buy a house. Move in your roommates. Why pay the college an arm and a leg when you can be paying off your house with roommates? You can potentially live free then. So just build slow, go at your own pace, ask questions, connect with people who are doing what you're doing. Don't be afraid to ask questions, and just go at your own pace, because I know right now everybody's pushing being an entrepreneur, getting money, building wealth, generational wealth, all of that. And I get caught up in that too. Like, oh, I'm not moving fast enough, but I have to do what's good for me in the moment financially and mentally, because I can't be just throwing money at whatever. I have to do what makes sense for me in that particular season of my life.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, good deal. Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks again, Jazz. And I think we are good to go here. Everybody have a great rest of your day.
Awesome. Bye.
All right, peace out.